Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we are back today with a little bit of a game discussion. We're going to talk about something that I'm coining or calling in the moment value. And we're going to compare this to a different type of value. But let's try and first put a definition of that so you guys understand what the hell it is that I'm actually talking about here. Now, what I mean by in the moment value is when a game is satisfying, it's fun to play because of the moment-to-moment things that are happening. You know, the situations when you're playing it. For example, Rainbow Six Siege, for me personally, is a very in-the-moment value game. I enjoy Siege because I enjoy actually being in the matches, playing, you know, round to round, moment to moment, just waiting to find out what next, where are they going to breach, how are we going to assault this room, you know, who knows what craziness is going to happen or occur, and going to make this another memorable match. Now, the other side of that, right, the thing that I'm trying to allude to here is the idea of a game that more heavily focuses on rewarding the player through a progression system. So rather than it being about what you're doing, the combat system, you know, the actions that you take as you play the game, it's about the actions that lead up to you unlocking something. For example, Destiny. After a lot of time spent with Destiny very much became a game that no longer had a lot of in-the-moment value for me. Don't get me wrong, I still think Destiny is an amazing shooter. I think Bungie is the king of, like, nailing the console FPS. Shooting in that game feels great, and combat can feel great. But the whole sort of combat loop thing, it started to get old for me. And I think the whole idea of in-the-moment value is definitely very much a personal thing, right? It's going to differ from person to person. And that's why I thought it was a fun thing to talk about. This isn't really a concrete, like, theme or, you know, way of judging a game. It's more so about looking at a game or games at a personal level and deciding what's important to you in video games right now. And that's really the reason I had the idea for this discussion. So as I was saying, Destiny is a game that rewards you more often for unlocking a piece of equipment or a piece of gear. You know, something that happens at the end of the play session. You know, you spend all this time running the raid just to see what kind of piece of gear you can get. And then you're going to do that over and over and over again. And the main enjoyment at that point in time, for many people, is the unlocking of that piece of loot. Whether it be an exotic weapon or a legendary raid drop, you know, that's really what you're looking for. That's where you're getting that high. It doesn't actually come from playing the game and the actions and events that occur leading up to unlocking that piece of gear. It comes from that piece of gear itself. And again, this is going to be a very personal thing. I would say that when Destiny first launched, when the Taken King first launched even, Destiny had a lot of in-the-moment value for me. I was really digging the combat, a lot of the new areas of the map, but once I have to start running a raid 5 or 6 times, the game starts to lose that in-the-moment value for me, and that's when I start to step away from it. Now, really the big thought process I had going into this conversation, going into this discussion, you know, was a couple days ago. I think a lot of us sit down and we kind of look at video games and we say to ourselves, some people may be even more drastic, you know, are video games worth playing? For me, it's like, what games are actually worth playing anymore? Like, what do I want to play? And as someone who does YouTube, I'm looking at that from multiple perspectives. I'm saying, you know, what am I going to enjoy in the moment? You know, I want something that I can enjoy that is just constantly, you know, giving me that satisfaction of playing a game. It's not about this, like, long, drawn-out grind to get what I was looking for. And on top of that, something that is fun for people to watch in the moment so I can create great content about that. So let's go over a couple more examples and kind of break down what I'm actually talking about here. Now, I think some of the biggest games for me that provide just constant in-the-moment value are competitive type games. Games that are all about the competitive side of them. You know, they're not about some progression. They're not about, like, reaching some sort of end game. They're about mastering a very skill-based concept. I would say Rainbow Six Siege falls into that. Counter-Strike, obviously, big time. And then we have a lot of strategy games like StarCraft and even a lot of MOBAs, whether it be League of Legends or Dota 2 or Heroes of the Storm. These are games that aren't really concerned with player progression in a typical linear RPG sense. They're not looking for you to unlock the next character that, like, those are components of some of those games, but really it's about what's happening in the moment. It's about developing your personal skill set, pulling off those awesome plays. That's that in-the-moment value that I'm trying to talk about here. And that, to me, has become worth so much more than that unlock this or reach that level value. Like, I'm just not into that kind of stuff anymore. When I look for a new game to play, or when I sit down and I go to critique a game and, you know, kind of try and explain how I feel about it, I look for that in this moment value now. That is more important to me than just about anything else. And a couple other games we can talk about that I think make good examples of this. Fallout and Skyrim, very much games for me, despite being RPGs, that do have a sense of progression. You know, they have a leveling system. You can play the game, you can unlock new skills and skill sets. Those are two games, though, that were very in the moment for me. It's like I said, it's the reason I enjoyed Fallout 4 as much as I did. Had it not been for that sense of exploration and wonderment as I roamed through the wasteland, Fallout 4 probably would have fell very short for me, but they still managed to nail that open world exploration aspect, and that gave the game a lot of in this moment value for me. Same thing with Skyrim. Skyrim was a game that I was just in awe of, just playing it, walking around in the snowy mountains, going from moment to moment, finding all of these awesome new locations was just really satisfying. I didn't need the leveling system. I didn't need, you know, the ability to unlock weapons to give me that sort of sense of value, that, you know, the sense of purpose. Were those great bonuses? No doubt. There's nothing more awesome than stumbling into a random cave in Skyrim and then walking out with a legendary piece of equipment. But it was the fact that Skyrim managed to do both of those things so well, and managed to make sure that I had a lot of in-the-moment value, I was enjoying exploring, and then it also rewarded me at the end. So there's no doubt that games can have both of those sort of elements. You know, they can reward the player just for playing, and then they can reward the player for playing through a certain portion or a certain amount of time by giving them something good at the end, giving them a little bit of loot, a little bit of a surprise, some reward in one way or the other. So I thought this was a fun way to look at, you know, the types of games that I'm into playing right now, and I think if a lot of you guys sat down and looked at it in the same way, you'd probably be able to come up with a list of games that did have in-the-moment value for you. And that's very much what I'd like to ask of you guys today, to go ahead and throw your current in-the-moment value games down in the description, or down in the comments below. You know, let me know what game for you is just really satisfying and enjoyable to play while you're playing it. You know, the moment-to-moment actions of just going through the game, you know, where do those satisfactions come from you? I think if I had to throw a couple other big ones in there just as examples, you know, XCOM is definitely one for me. There's no doubt that the progression system in XCOM is a lot of fun, but I love the moment-to-moment combat, you know, never knowing if I'm going to lose my favorite soldier, never knowing what the, you know, what the aliens, the sectoids are going to do, having to, you know, play against that, having to think of a strategy on the fly. It's that actual element that makes the game so enjoyable. And I think Bloodborne is a big one as well. Bloodborne in the Souls games as a whole, Dark Souls, Demon Souls are probably my two favorite ones. Those are games that I was so absolutely terrible at when I first started playing them, and admittedly I'm still not that good at them, where I was never concerned about getting to the end of the story. Hell, I was never even really concerned about leaving a certain zone. I just enjoyed the combat so much. There's something so deep and just, you know, emotionally direct about the combat. It made it so much fun to just go and kill the same enemies 100 times over just to improve on my backstab or my counter or my parry. You know, I was never actually concerned about going to the next area. When I made it there, it was like this big, you know, sort of surprise, like, oh, I finally made it out of there. But I was so caught up in the moment. You know, I was getting that enjoyment just from engaging in those small combat, that moment-to-moment elements of the Souls and Bloodborne. So let me know your thoughts, guys. I definitely would like to hear what your idea of an in-the-moment value game is, and what sort of games don't fit into that bracket for you anymore. You know, what sort of games have very much become the sort of grind and reward loop type experience for you. I know some games are directly built to be that type of experience. You know, you could even say a game like Warframe or like Destiny is built around that. But I think there's a point in time for a lot of people where they really do enjoy the combat of both those games. The actual aspect of playing the game is a lot of fun. I still feel that way about Warframe, as I haven't put that much time into it, and I did at one point, as I said, feel that way about Destiny. I hope you guys get what I'm saying here. I thought this was a difficult thing to kind of like project onto others, but I think you guys are going to understand what I'm saying, and I'd very much like to hear your thoughts on it down in the comment section below. I think this is a fun way of looking at, you know, games. I think a lot of us get caught up in like, oh, I'm just not into games right now, or I'm not into a certain type of game, but we really don't know how to put like a description of that. We don't really know how to put that into a conversation piece other than saying, I just don't like that kind of game right now. And for me, this was a big part of whether or not I enjoy a certain game at any given time, was this in-the-moment value thing. So that's it for this one, guys. One last time, share your in-the-moment value games or games that aren't in-the-moment value for you down in the comment section below. Let's get a little bit of discussion, some lists going, and I will see you in the next one.